Welcome to Mastering Diversity in Skincare. Today's presentation is the elements of successful treatment modalities, and this is the answers to the workbook that was downloaded from our previous email. It is important to understand skin and how it functions for the success of a corrective treatment. Understanding the skin's internal mechanisms, its limitations, and the capability of the products to be used, a general concept of the results can be expected. Hello, I'm Pamela Springer. Thank you for joining me on this journey of understanding and mastering the diversity in skincare. We all have moments that we feel stuck on managing a particular skin condition. To be sure you are in sync with your client, ask pertinent questions to dig deeper into the reason for the visit. The client's answer will determine whether the service is a corrective or a relaxing spa experience. Performing corrective treatments, you must understand the skin type and the degree to which the acid mantle is compromised, the extent of the skin condition, and the combination of conditions dictating the order of treatments. You need to know the depth of the condition's presentation and the tools to use to assist in the accurate assessment, and that is the actual visual assessment. You will then understand the corrective treatment modalities to implement the best treatment possible for an optimum results. Okay, we're talking about reviewing basics. I know some of you are wondering, why do I need to take my time to review basics? Well, believe it or not, visiting the fundamentals of your initial aesthetics training gives you gives you more insight on solving the puzzle of what do I do first. Revisiting the basics of a skin type generally uncovers the primary cause of some conditions. This step makes the development of a treatment plan, when first learned in aesthetic school, reveal the answer in figuring out how to develop the treatment for the client. A treatment plan should be used throughout the treatment process, and it should play a huge part in the selection of treatment modalities. And looking at these photos, and this is the model that we're going to talk about for the next 2 or 3 emails. The model is Hispanic, and here are a few known facts of Hispanic skin types and their common skin conditions. First of all, Hispanics have the firmest skin of all ethnic groups. They tend to be quite oily in their presentation, and that's because they tend to use very harsh drying products because really they're trying to get rid of all the oiliness, but in the long run, it produces a sensitive skin. This ethnic group is prone to hyperpigmentation, and in this case, you're going to see some photoaging as well as melasma. The one thing about Hispanics is that they are known to be non-compliant when it comes to using a sunscreen. The visual assessment of the model in this photo, the skin shows a particular skin type and also more than one skin condition. The model's photo also shows a variety of conditions to address. I will go over the questions asked in the workbook and break down the visual assessment so that you'll understand the primary cause of the condition and what should be addressed first and why. Now, let's talk about the assessment. I've developed a form for um, individuals or estheticians to use when they're doing a skin analysis. And there's certain things you need to know, and if you mark them down, you can go back and it makes it so much easier. Also, we have a drawing that this can be used to actually mark where these lesions are so that when the client isn't with you, let's say you don't have time to create a treatment plan, that you'll be able to study those lesions and where they are and come up with a plan of action. So, the first is the color. So, on this particular client or model, her skin tones are very uneven, and if you notice, it's all over the face. It's the entire face. Well, number one, I see melasma, but also she has sun damage. So the photo aging is more or less just as prevalent as the melasma. When we see the pigmentation and her complexion, you see the melasma, and her complexion is more of an olive tone. The secretions, the sebaceous glands are excessive in producing oil, and again, that's the entire face. The fatty inclusions and the skin anomalies, none of those need to be checked because none of them um, basically has anything to do with this particular model's skin. Her texture is smooth, but the smoothness comes because of the oiliness. It's really, there wasn't a word slick. It's more of a slick feeling, but the closest to that was smooth. Because of the skin being so oily, the skin tends to be much thicker, and the pores are moderate. Her pores aren't enlarged, but they tend to be moderate. In the nasal area, which you can't see, this was a client of mine, she had some comedones. So the tone is firm. The acne that I do see, and hopefully you see, is papules. There's no pustules. These eruptions are few in number, and I would classify this more or less as a acne grade 2. So using this form, you can check all of this off, and like I say, when you're creating your treatment plan, you can look at maybe some additional notes that you put down and create this plan. Remember, this treatment plan is more or less for people who want to have corrective services. Now, when it comes to people that, some of your clients that are just interested in a relaxing experience or a relaxing facial, you can still do this and fill out the form and make them aware of their conditions, because maybe they will book an appointment so that you can address the different conditions or issues of their skin. So when you always use this, this is a great way to have a conversation with your clients so that they can understand that they do have issues and you're the expert and the person that can resolve those issues in a lot of cases. So the treatment plan, first of all, the client's concerns, they were concerned with the pigmentation, and they wanted an even skin tone, and also the periodic breakouts. When I analyzed the skin, of course, I saw that it was very oily, and there was moderate sun damage and a grade 2, just a few papules were present. So my goal was to remove the buildup of keratinized dead cells and add a lot of hydrating ingredients to that skin. You want to reduce the acne lesions as well as the pigmented lesions. So that's basically the goal in a nutshell. And some of it is something that she had brought to my attention, but when I brought other things to her attention, it ended up making the list a little longer. So the treatment plan, the initial treatment, because of the um, skin type being oily, I want to balance that first. So always consider the skin type, and that's where you would begin your sessions. That's going to take approximately 2 to 3 weeks. I am going to use enzymes. I'm going to use a hydrated mask, hydrating moisturizer. And after I get that in balance, if she's still having issues with the papules, I would introduce to her skin salicylic, and better yet, a modified Jesner. Now, why would I choose a modified Jesner? I choose it because if she still has the papules, the salicylic and the modified Jesner will help with eradicating that. But then, most important, remember we talked about her oily skin. So, a modified Jesner has a lactic acid combined. So, therefore, now lactic is very hydrating. So, even though that skin has become balanced, you still want to maintain hydration. So, I would choose modified Jesner instead of just a salicylic. Also, I would incorporate a skin lightening serum and a Mandelic serum. And like I said, you want to kill sometimes two birds with one stone. So you're introducing a protocol that is going to help resolve two different conditions. So when I apply the skin brightening or lightening serum, I would do that on the affected area. In her case, that's just about all over the skin. And then let that absorb into the skin. And from there, I would layer that um, modified Jesner, and I would layer maybe 2 to 3 layers on top of that. Now remember, you do not remove that. Do not remove the modified Jesner. It'll frost, and that will let you know that it terminated. On top of that, it would be a Mandelic brightening peel. And that brightening peel has Mandelic, which is great for hyperpigmentation as well as acne, but it has a retinol. It has kojic acid, as well as mulberry and arbutin, alpha arbutin. So this is the kicker. It would be a very thin layer of that brightening peel that you do not remove. And of course, after that, once the products have absorbed into the skin, they would, if they would, you would add your sun protection. So the frequency, honestly, when it comes to corrective programs, I like to see the client every single week. That may not be possible for your client, but it should be bi-weekly. So every other week they should come to you. They're not going to get the results that you would want them to get or that they want to see if they're only coming once a month. So when it comes to a corrective program, you need to see them either weekly or bi-weekly. Now, if it was just a spa experience, well, once a month every 6 weeks or whatever, or even if it's a maintenance treatments, because now you're maintaining the health of the skin. That can be 4 to 6 to 10 weeks, depending on the issues of the skin. Now, I really want to emphasize the importance of doing a skin analysis every single time that person comes in. And when I say a skin analysis, I should say a visual assessment. Because you may have a treatment plan in step 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever you have down. You might find that it's accelerated and you can miss some steps and go to the next once you look at the skin and assess where you are at the time that that client comes in. It may be it's not time for you to get to a chemical peel. The skin isn't ready because the skin type has not been balanced, or the acid mantle is still impaired. So therefore, you're not going to go to that next level, which would be a chemical peel. You would still stay in the enzyme zone, so to speak. So always do a visual assessment when your client comes in, because what you're looking for is the skin to tell you what it needs. And just because you have a treatment plan, that does not mean that you have to follow that treatment plan the steps that you have incorporated initially. So when we come to the home care products, because I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone, we can add certain serums in the home care protocol or the home care products, so that they're not only having better results with the acne, but they're having great results for the hyperpigmentation. So I like a AHA BHA cleanser, AHA BHA toner, so that's number one. The Mandelic serum, because it's great for hyperpigmentation and acne, I would use that in the morning. And because the skin is so oily, I would use the hyaluronic acid as your moisturizer. Remember, we're trying to add water because the excessive oil basically lets me know that they're lacking moisture content in that skin. The sunscreen, I like to spray sunscreen for oilier skins. And remember, you want to encourage your client, especially if they're Hispanic, the need to wear a sunscreen, because everything that you're doing for that skin, especially for the hyperpigmentation, if they're not compliant with sun protection, they're not going to see results. In fact, things could get worse. So for the night regimen, after the cleansing and the toning, I would add the ultra lightening serum, and that would be on the affected area. In the case of this client, it would be basically all over the skin, because as you can see by the photo, they have a lot of hyperpigmentation on the face. And lastly, I would have them use the Mandelic brightening mask. Again, a thin layer. They would not remove it. They would remove it with their morning regimen. So they'll start seeing a brightening. And again, you have your Mandelic in the brightening mask that will help with the acne as well as the hyperpigmentation. So what's important is to really understand the order of professional treatments. So depending on the skin type or condition, you will want to first address the skin type. So in this case, it's oily skin. And this skin type is truly oily throughout the entire face. So remember, if you don't address that, even their home care products and things that you might be doing professionally, the skin doesn't receive it because of the buildup of oil, blocking any of those ingredients to go deeper into the layers of the skin. So you want to be able to have that skin. Um, it's almost like waxing a floor. When you remove the wax and put on a coat of wax, the floor is brilliant. So when you remove the buildup of oil, it's open to receive, and that skin becomes really flawless. So the skin condition, there's two. You have your acne, and of course the client is prone to comedones with the papules present, but it's basically in the nasal area was where the comedones. And I know you can't see it on the photograph. I just know it because that was a client of mine. This other skin condition is pigmentation. So basically, there was a chemical reaction, which was either hormonal or and from the sun, that caused the hyperpigmentation, and she had normal hormonal fluctuation, but she had excessive exposure. So this is how you find out the primary and secondary causes and then create your treatment plan from there. Always, like I said, treat the skin type first. So, my first protocol will always have the enzyme as an exfoliator. And enzymes are great because it's still going to remove the dead cells. It'll still hydrate the skin because you need hydration, but it'll also soften the follicular blockage so that you can have easy extractions of those comedones that's in the nasal wings especially, which are generally really hard to remove. So the enzymes will soften those areas to make extractions much easier. It also will help remove some of the pigment staining. So you're going to see a brighter complexion when you finish. And what I like about the enzyme is that it reacts only on dead cell layer. So therefore it's safe for all skin types. From there, I'm going to use the Mandelic Serum. And like I said, that's going to reduce the hyperpigmentation about 50% within the next 4 to 6 weeks. It has antibacterial properties, so it's going to help regulate that sebum production and in turn decrease the occurrence of those breakouts. Now, initially, that first week, I would use a charcoal mask. Number one, it has deep cleansing properties. It's going to absorb those impurities. It's going to absorb any excess oil. It will balance the skin's pH. It's going to minimize any enlarged pores. And it's really a powerful natural detoxifier. It'll also restore the cell metabolism to its normal state. Now, I would, the first week, use that. When they return for another service, then I would incorporate a very hydrating mask because you have done all your extractions and everything the first week. You may have to do a few extractions depending on if you were able to remove most of them. You would actually perform the extractions, but I would hydrate that skin with a hydrating mask. The moisturizer, like I said before, I would use the hyaluronic acid so that it attracts and will bind the water within the extracellular matrix. So basically, that's answering some of the questions that I asked you guys previously on the initial email you received. and on the workbook. So the next action plan or the next lesson, we're going to review the skin condition and go in a little bit more in depth with the acne. So the second treatment step will be around the acne. If you have any questions in the comments section below, feel free to ask those questions and I will make sure to answer them. And please join the Don't Be Afraid of the Dark group because we'll share some of this within those groups. So there also below you're going to find a little button for you to download, and it's going to be more information on skin type, and it's also going to give you a protocol. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to speaking to you in a few days on the next section or treatment part 2 of Mastering Diversity in Skincare.